Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. Throughout Job's speeches, Job said that he desired to have an audience with God so that God could tell him why he suffered the things he suffered, even though he was righteous, and so that God would vindicate him before his friends as righteous. Now, Job didn't think he would get this audience with God, but it is something he desired. Now, today there is an old adage, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it, warning us against arrogance, for sometimes we might get what we ask for and not like it. Job is going to get his audience with God, but it's not going to go the way he thought it would. Let's find out why. So if you have a Bible with you, you can turn to the book of Job to chapter 38. We're going to be reading from verses 1 through 11. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Job chapter 38, beginning at verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the seas with doors, when it burst forth and issued from the womb, when I made the clouds its garment, and thick darkness its swaddling band? When I fixed my limit for it, and set bars and doors, when I said, This far you may come, but no farther, and here your proud waves must stop. During the end of Elihu's speech, Elihu started referring to the majesty of God as one that comes in the clouds, with his voice thundering from those clouds and his power exhibited through lightning. It is quite possible that this whirlwind we see here in Job 38, that God does speak through, was forming in the distance, and Elihu used that as the basis for some of the things he said. That is only speculation, of course, but it is a possibility. Notice here that when the Lord speaks, he completely ignores what Elihu says and immediately turns to Job. Is that because what Elihu said was wrong? No, for Elihu did speak some truth, but God is not going to base his arguments on man's musings. God is all-knowing, he is all-powerful. If he wants to deal directly with man, he will do so on his own accord. He needs no help from man. And we need to accept his teachings as infallible, absolute truth, not just the thinkings of a fallible man, like we said about Job, his three friends, and Elihu. God's question to Job is an honest one. Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Job had lifted himself up, casting doubts on God's moral judgments, in Job 21, verses 7 to 26. He has cast doubts on God's mercy and loving kindness, in Job 16, verses 7 to 14. And has almost even cast doubts upon God's justice in places like Job 19, verse 7. By speaking without knowledge or complete knowledge, Job has opened up an opportunity for God's enemies to blaspheme. With this being true, Job has opened up himself to censure from the Almighty. The way God is going to censure Job is by posing a bunch of questions to Job that Job should be able to answer if, in fact, Job had the necessary knowledge to question the hidden actions or allowances of God. If, however, Job could not answer these things, showing an ignorance of God's natural government, which can be clearly seen, then Job would be in no position to pass judgment on God's moral government, which cannot be seen. Over the next 2 chapters, then, God is going to show Job his omnipotence concerning creation, an omnipotence that cannot be matched by Job, nor completely understood either. Now, some of these things are more understood today than they were in Job's day, but they are not fully understood. And in addition to that, their truths give us more evidence for the inspiration of Scripture, for they speak of things that Job could not have known. God begins by asking Job where he was when God laid the foundations of the earth. And the answer was, Job didn't exist. We know that because Genesis 1 verse 1 and verses 26 and 27 says, In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But if we skip down to verse 26, we read this. Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Man was the last thing that was created during the creation week. Now, from this passage, we learn that angels existed, but angels are not man, and they certainly were not Job. Job didn't know the measurements of the earth, the laws that govern it, or the processes that keep the earth going the way it does, making life possible, like gravity, which hangs the earth on nothing, but keeps it revolving around the sun, and the magnetic field, which protects us from the sun's harmful radiation, etc. Was Job present when God created the stars that sang together upon their creation with the angels of heaven, angels being what is meant by the sons of God here? And of course, the answer to that is no, because Genesis 1 verses 14 to 19 said, "Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day." Now of this, I would like to make a couple of points. First of all, sometimes people ask, when were the angels created? And the answer is, sometime before the fourth day of creation, for they are present here. Angels are not man. Man don't become angels at death, nor are angels created in the image of God. Beyond that, we don't know if angels pre-existed, Genesis 1 verse 1, but we don't have to know. God knows, and that can be enough for us. But the second thing I would like to talk quickly about is the stars singing. Of course, Genesis 1 says that the purpose of the stars is to provide light, and when you look at the night sky, they do exactly that. But with the advent of telescopes, even the ones we've sent to space, we've learned a lot more about the stars. First of all, every star looks different, being different in size, color, and composition. Space itself, with the galaxies and nebulae out there showing us the handiwork of God and the beauty of God's creation. On day 4, God created the stars, and he allowed the light to be visible from the earth without the millions and billions of years that scientists say would be required for the light to travel here. Just like God is telling Job here in Job 38, we were not there when God did this. So to say that we know how all of this happened is arrogance on our part, because again, we were not there. But Job 38 and Genesis 1 doesn't simply tell us that the stars provide light, it says that they sing. And you want to know what? It turns out that they do. And do you want to know when man figured this out experimentally? 2015, just 10 years ago as of the publication of this lesson of our podcast. According to NASA, although we can't hear it with our ears, the stars in the skies are performing a concert, one that never stops. The biggest stars make the lowest, deepest sounds like tubas and double basses. Small stars have high-pitched voices like celestial flutes. These virtuosos don't just play one note at a time either. Our own sun has thousands of different sound waves bouncing around inside it at any given moment. Understanding these stellar harmonies represent a revolution in astronomy. Isn't it amazing that the book of Job was able to expound this truth to man almost 4,000 years ago, before man could definitively prove it to be true because God revealed it to be true? God was there, man was not. God created the stars, man did not. God knows everything about them, whereas man does not. If this does not provide us some humility, I don't know what will. God goes on to ask Job if he was the one who shut the doors of the sea when they were created and set the bounds of their habitations. And of course he wasn't, for Genesis 1 verses 6 to 10 says, "Then God said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day." Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. God created the waters, he created the water cycle, he created the laws and processes that govern them, making the seas and oceans habitable for fish and other sea creatures, and the land able to sustain plants and terrestrial life. Truly in this, God is showing his power and Job's weakness. And if Job is weak in these things, who is Job to question what God does or what God allows? Who is Job to pass judgment on God? But God is not done, not even close. We're going to continue on with this, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Job chapter 38, verses 12 to 21, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.